Today is our first episode of 2025. Tara, you had a year of yes. For those of you that want to do a year of yes, what are 3 things that we should keep in mind?
Everybody brings something to the table. Whether you're not attracted to someone, you can learn something about yourself just from sitting down with somebody else and having a conversation. Don't put so much stress on every person you're sitting down with. If I didn't have my year of yes, I would have said no immediately to my husband, who supports me and is a cheerleader and a friend and taught me so much about myself. People get so stuck on the image of what they think their partner's supposed to look like. It's great to have
some attraction, absolutely.
You also could be saying no to somebody you should be saying yes to.
Right.
That would be the second. And then third, have fun. I always forget this. I forget this when I'm going on stage. I have to remind myself how great this is. Like if you're in your 30s or your 40s, these are the days of your life. This is the journey. You know, yes, you want the goal, but you got to be enjoying it while you're going through it. Have fun.
Absolutely. I think attitude is everything on dates. Oh, I love that, Tara. That was really good.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria. And on this week's episode, we have comedian Tara Cannistraci, the host of Coffee Talk podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Bravo on my name.
I did it.
You did it.
I did on your podcast too.
You did.
Because it's really spelled coffee.
It's like my accent. New York Italian, coffee talk.
Coffee talk. Before we get into our episode, I just want to remind you that this podcast is for everyone. Singles, people in relationships, your mother. This is our first episode of the year, and my New Year's resolution is to remind you to share this with a friend because you care, but also because this is pretty good dating advice, and we want to have different dating experiences this year, and it starts with changing our mindset, and I am just so happy that you are joining me again on the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. One last thing, as a gift to you, every year I release my goal planner, and the goal planner helps you create really specific and measurable goals and keep yourself accountable throughout the year. I break it down by month. I break it down by goal. I even include my 5 Fives Challenges worksheet in the goal planner, which is, to uncover all of the great opportunities to meet new people and possibly create new relationships or friendships. You can find the link to the free 2025 goal planner in the show notes. Pop onto that link, download it, and let's make this year the best year ever. While you're there, follow my co-host, Tara Jokes.
Yes.
Was it?
Tara
Jokes.
You
right?
got it.
While you're there, follow my co-host, Tara Jokes.
Tara Jokes. Thank you.
I love it.
I love the plug. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. In today's episode, we're going to dive into getting to know Tara better. She's navigating singlehood, dating in her 30s, and then meeting her partner. This whole story, though, starts in the Bronx.
Well, he was originally from the Bronx.
It
you can
like that as a person?
I love that you said it's so professional, like as if it was like, yeah,
the Bronx.
Yeah.
Anyway, go.
Bronx. I was born and raised in the Bronx. It's very much my persona and part of my personality, and a lot of where my comedies derive from. And I had kind of given up on ever meeting anybody from the Bronx or were originally from the Bronx because I felt, I grew up there, and it's like it's like any neighborhood. You know the people in your neighborhood. You know who you've dated and are already off the list, and you kind of know who you've kind of outgrown or what your type isn't anymore. Mm-hmm. So I don't think my type was necessarily someone who was still there in the Bronx. I think it was kind of somebody like me who grew up there, was raised there, and then kind of evolved.
Would you ever date in other boroughs?
That's so funny. People ask me that. Yeah, absolutely. I would date. I wanted a New Yorker. I wanted like a city person, somebody who kind of understood where I was coming from. Not even necessarily like Italian. I just thought it would be easier if somebody understood my humble upbringing and who I am today. That I just thought it would make it easier to understand each other.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's funny because you're saying that as someone that's like Italian American from the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And there are people that are like, oh, I'm, South Asian and I have to date someone who's South Asian because they'll get it.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, this sort of, let's call it tribalism, like being able to see yourself and the person you're dating, it's transcendent, really.
What's funny is I didn't subscribe to it for I ideally had liked it, but my type was never Italians from the Bronx. So I kind of had given up on that. I'm like, it would make things easier, but I kind of given up on that and realized that wasn't my type necessarily.
What do you think it would have made easier?
I just thought the understanding of like where we come from, like, and it's like an old school mentality where like Greeks or Italians or Spanish, or marry within your own. I was never within that frame of mind,
right?
But I always would go, I wish I could find somebody from a borough who, went to school and did things like me that would kind of, I guess mirror who I was.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. I also never intended to marry Greek.
And you married Greek?
Yeah. I was just like, I'll date other people, and I started to learn like what my type was. And it very much was like someone who had lived in a different country for a little bit, because I had lived in a different country when I was a young adult. And that just changed a lot of my perspective. That sounds so pretentious, but it's not like that at all.
No, it doesn't.
Like, I just felt like America's not number one. There's other ways to like be number one in other things.
Was it Greece where you lived?
I lived in Athens, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think Greeks always.
I know, but like, it was also like I graduated high school when like the Iraq War began. And we were kind of sold this idea of like, America has freedom. And then I moved to Europe. Like I moved to Greece when I'm 18. I'm like, oh, well, they have freedom here too.
Oh,
like, what do you mean?
Yeah, when I went back to my hometown, my grandparents' hometown in Italy, I was like, you saw this view every day and left. Like, what's happening? I want to come back now.
Right.
As an adult, like I seriously even looked at property within the town. I understand that it was for opportunity at the time and, a whole other vision that they had. Grateful for it because I'm reaping the benefits of their hard work and, sacrifice. But I am not fully subscribed to only living, even in New York. Like I've become bi-coastal now and go to LA because it's where work took me. But so I'm not necessarily stuck in New York, the frame of mind anymore either.
I am stuck in a Jersey frame of mind.
Are you?
For sure. I struggle to
ever think of leaving.
I mean, I live in Greece 2 months out of the year.
Okay.
That's enough.
I mean, yeah, that's also
every time
amazing.
I go to California, I'm like, ugh.
Well, yeah, but that isn't what's going to take you there for work. Like, if you can live and be where you are when you're comfortable, and then, live in Athens for 2 months a year. I mean, I was just in Athens.
I don't live in Athens for 2 months. I live in Crete.
Oh, do you? I was just in Crete. I love Crete.
Where in Crete were you?
This is. I was supposed to go to Hania, but according to our producer, I was in Alunda.
Oh, Alunda?
Alunda.
Ooh,
okay,
that's
so
like
I don't even know how to say
bougie.
it.
Wow.
I was in Alunda and
I live near there.
Well, I looked at homes there. Like that's how in love with Crete I became.
Part of Crete. That's a really nice part of Crete. I live near there. I live on the south coast.
Okay.
But my husband grew up in Iraklio, which is the city closest to Alunda. That's nice. I'm so happy you went to Crete. I made 2 Cretan kids. Oh. That's what I tell people. Yeah. I married a Cretan and I made 2 Cretan kids. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm from a different island, so my mother-in-law calls me Kseni, foreign woman.
That's so funny.
Greek. It's such a anyway. Let's talk about your journey, though. Okay, so
we can talk about ethnic mother-in-laws. We can make this a whole podcast.
We'll do that in a couple episodes from now. That's actually not a bad idea. We'll come back to that. Okay, so you've mentioned that you were always dating, but you felt like you didn't meet the one until you turned 37.
Yeah, I never prioritized meeting someone. It was never on my to-do list to get married. Okay. Or to be honest, even have children.
Okay.
So much so that when I was like 34, I invested in like freezing my eggs because I was like, I couldn't even envision having children ever, but I was like, I know it's never going to happen in my 30s. I could have met Prince Charming the next day and we'd been like, great, we're waiting until I'm in my 40s because I have this whole other path I want to take career-wise that was just not going to allow for it. Not that I think there's ever a good time to have a kid, but I just knew it wasn't in me in that moment. So I had froze my eggs in my 30s and I was like, just in case. This is like my insurance to try because there's never guarantees in life. And then I went really hard into stand-up comedy not until I was like 33. Like, maybe dibbled and dabbled and if that's the way you say that, after 27. But I just felt like I had like this tunnel vision and I really wasn't interested. I was of the mindset of like, I didn't want to get dressed and like waste an outfit or like
good makeup
or do my makeup for like a guy that I don't care how many brothers and sisters you have. I already know that I'm not interested in you. And I felt like anything else in life, it had to be a calling. Like if I genuinely was interested in someone, I would want to go out with them. But if I didn't get that like initial yes feeling, I was kind of like no. And I didn't really date a lot.
So wait, how did you meet then your guy?
It was ironic enough. It was my aunt had passed away the year before. And I remember it was very close to her. And I remember it was the first time in my life I had the feeling like it would have been nice to go through this with somebody. Not that I don't have amazing friends, but I do think there's a different connection when it's somebody you're intimate or committed to. And I'm not even talking about husband. I just meant like partner.
Right.
Like I wish I had a partner. And I was like, all right, well, if that's something I'm feeling now,
now I'm ready.
And so I had to kiss a few frogs that year, you know.
Do you felt like, I remember when I felt ready to meet my person, I was saying yeah. I was just saying yes. Like
That's
if
what I
someone
said.
asked me out,
I was of the say yes mentality.
I was like, say yes.
I said, I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah.
And it was my year of yes.
Oh my God, same.
So because I believe that you can't be, I was picky prior, but I was picky prior because it really wasn't a priority.
Right.
If now that I felt like it was becoming a priority, you got to be all in.
And also like, the list shifts.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like, I was like, it's like a second job to an extent. Like if this is something you want to accomplish, you got to put in the work. So I was like, and the other thing I thought, and ironically enough, I wasn't a good dater prior. Not that I wasn't a good dater. I just wasn't experienced because I really wasn't going out a lot just to go out on dates. So I was like, I'll go on a few practice dates.
Yeah.
So much so that when I first met my husband, I was like, I don't think that this guy is going to be for me.
How'd you meet him?
I was in a restaurant. My girlfriend had called me. I was not even, I had like jeans, sneakers, not really dressed up. And she's like, please, I need to go out. She was like getting married at the time and stressed out. And I was like, okay, she goes, let's go somewhere we haven't been before. Let's go. I go, I saw this restaurant on Instagram. Let's just go here.
In the Bronx?
And we got there. It was in Westchester, in Scarsdale. And we sit in and we're the only people in the restaurant. And
Instagram Live.
All of a sudden, we see this guy like in the driveway and my friend's like, he's good looking. And I'm like, no, he's not. I could tell he's not my type. So I judged him right off the bat, which I always tell my single girlfriends now never to do because you never know. Mm-hmm. And then the place got jammed. It got so busy and I was like, I don't want to be in this place right now with all these good looking guys looking like this. Right. Like it wasn't, I didn't look right. Like all the things we worry and stress so much that we think matter that they don't even notice.
Like straight men.
The amount of time I wasted making sure my manicure matched my pedicure, that they don't know anything.
The other day I had a client say to me, like, I only want to date women who look natural. So I showed him like 3 photos of women that have a variety of natural.
Right.
And I was like, he's like, this one. And I go, yeah, this one has the most Botox, baby.
Right.
Like, what do you mean?
I know,
she's getting an oxygen facial once a week.
Yeah, hello. My skincare routine costs more than my mortgage. I don't care.
Oh, you bought your mortgage in the 2.4 interest rate. I'm so jealous.
But or I just spend way too much on skincare is what I mean. So he had sent over dessert to our table.
Oh, he didn't.
And
that's classy.
Yeah. And we were on our way out and I said, we have to come back here tonight.
He's Italian?
Yes.
Oh,
I said, we have to come back here on a night when I'm dressed right. Like literally I said to her, this is a good spot for me to maybe meet someone. It was really a good looking, well-dressed crowd. And on the way out, I said, I never said thank you to that guy who sent the dessert. So I went back in and I was like, thank you for the dessert. And he's like, where are you going? Why don't you stay and have, a glass of wine with me? And I was like, I wasn't interested in him. And I was
Come on, you're yes.
I know. And I was like, but I was with my friend and I was like, I was like, not tonight. I have work, comedian. It was just a night I wanted to go home and write. And he was like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a comic. He's like, well, give me a card. I'll come to a show and heckle you. And the minute he said that, I hate that line. And I was like, I'm not giving this guy my number. I'm giving him a card with just my email address on it. So I gave him the card. I leave. About 20 minutes later, my girlfriend's reaming into me. You should have stayed. We should have stayed and had a drink with him. And I get an email.
You got an email?
And it's like, hey, it was really
later?
Nice meeting you. By the way, you left your sunglasses here. I've attached a picture in case you forgot what they look like. And there was this picture of this like random stranger at the bar with my glasses on. And I was like, that's kind of funny.
Hook.
And I was like, all right, I'm coming back. Pour me a glass of Cabernet. I'll sit and have that wine with you. And that was it. I went back for my sunglasses. He asked me on a date. 2 months later, he was like, and I had a mutual friend who actually, because friends do this, a mutual friend who that night showed up to the restaurant and was like, oh, don't date him. He's not serious. He's never going to be serious. He owns this restaurant. And
he owned the restaurant?
I didn't know. He owns the restaurant. And, he's just single and we're having a good time. And at the time, I think the friend was also like, was trying to protect me, but also liked his, liked that he had his single friend that owned this restaurant. And I was like, well, don't worry about me. I go, if he's not into me, I'm not going to be into him. Like, I'm 37 years old. Like, I know so much of who I am that there's no chasing anybody.
You don't get validity from another man.
If you're not into me next, please, nobody has time for that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm not that into him. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm going to go to dinner. 2 months later, that same mutual friend called me and was like, what did you do to my friend? I'm like, you told me not to date. This guy's giving me ultimatums. Like, he wants to get married. I was like, what happened? I thought you told me this guy wasn't going to be serious, and it was my husband who really was the one who was like, I know what I said, that I, wasn't looking, I wasn't, head set on like certain things, but this is it. I'm all in. And I was like,
so you had that conversation 2 months in? 2 months in,
he gave me an ultimatum to live with him. And I was like, are you insane? And I had owned my own place and I loved my own home. And I was just like, and he's like, you got to put your big girl pants on. He's like, and if you really want this, he's like, we've got to find the compromise. He's like, because I'm all in. And I was like.
How old was he?
41.
And now you're married.
Yeah.
How long? Okay, so 2 months, we're going all in chips.
We got engaged about a year and a half later from that. Because I eventually had to like come to terms with selling my place, and it took me a little bit longer.
Yeah, different real estate markets.
Yeah. It was, and it was just, we were both really working hard to try and like get together to the next level. We wanted a home, we wanted certain things, and we knew we were fully committed at that point. So it wasn't like we have to get married right away or we have to have a kid right away. He was on board for whatever my timeline was, as long as I was committed. Which really helped because I was able to really do me during that time.
I love that. I think what's interesting is that you also had that all in chips conversation, even at 2 months. Because I have people asking me every single week the same question, which is like, we've been dating for 2 years and I don't know if he wants to get married and have kids or whatever it is, but they're asking for timelines. In fact, in my upcoming book, I have a whole chapter on timelines. And to me, it's like, which by the way, there's no right answer, but the right question is what's an all-in conversation, which is, here's my secrets, here's my vulnerabilities. You in, you out.
And can I ask you how soon into that? So like, I think there's different, like after 2 years, if you haven't had that conversation.
Oh, that's it. You're done.
Just
2 years.
Where are you going from there? But like, I also, and I remember I didn't care so much about this first date with my husband that I was like, oh, I froze my eggs. I spoke about everything. Like I was an open book. Even at one point, he had like made a comment like, oh, I don't really know if I see myself married or what. I don't know if I could ever want children. And I was like, oh, God, this is too much for a first date conversation. I literally said to him, is this what you say to women on dates? Because like they think like they can change you and it's attractive and like you're a challenge. I was like, because it's like not the conversation I want to have. And he was just like.
He was dating a grown-up.
And then he like went to the bathroom and I remember I text my girlfriends. I'm like, oh, this guy hates that he just took me out. Like he was so confident and so full of himself. And I was just like, is this, I'm not turned on by this.
They're George Clooney.
Yeah. And I think there was a part of that because he was a single, attractive man who owns a restaurant, no kids,
I could totally picture
the perception was, and he's such a sweet and kind person, but maybe a little full of himself. And he came back to the table and like kissed me on my forehead and he's like, are you having as good a time as I am? And I was like, oh, nobody just ever put this guy in his place before. Like nobody's ever just called him out and been like, hey, you're not the prize. I am right now.
Right.
Or maybe you are, but so am I,
Exactly.
So,
no, I totally get what you're saying.
But then I have this other girlfriend of mine who's single and I'm like, my husband is like, what is she doing on these first dates that guys don't call her back? Like, is she too much into the conversation of like, I want to be married and have kids? Like, do they feel the sense of like, she's 43 and single and like.
Wants kids.
And just wants the whole thing right away, that there's no like the sense of, dare I use the word desperation, but comes across so much so that like that's too soon to have the conversation. Like when do you, that's what I'm kind of asking you.
Okay.
I know that you're supposed to be interviewing me, but
No,
I think
please. It's
okay.
called Ask a Matchmaker.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got the question.
What's the question?
Was it too soon to like put it all out there? Because I did it on the first date.
You know, I think it depends on age
Tact,
and also like environment. So you had actually had your first meetup when you first met him.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
You didn't talk about, I'm assuming you didn't talk about your egg freezing journey.
No.
Right? So as a result, like he was able to get a feel for how you communicate, how your chemistry, and I don't mean the elusive thing. I'm talking about like your actual like back and forth conversation and like how you communicate, your body language. Like he already knew something about you prior to your sit down date, right? And so now at the sit down date, that's technically your second date according to Matchmaker Maria math. That's a thing.
I
Tara.
like that.
And to me, it's like, yeah, that's actually second date's a great time to do that. Also, you were 37, right? And I just feel like if any man is dating a woman over 38 or over 40, you could ask them, especially if you're meeting them online. It says it. It already says it. I want to have kids. And if a woman is on a date, I just feel like, and you have that in your profile, you don't need to talk about that on your first meetup. Like, just cool it off. And if you can't do that, then make your first meetup. I know people hate when I say this, but it actually works. Your first date can be a FaceTime or a walk in your neighborhood with some gelato or some tea. You know, like just cool it off. Make it a meetup over a first date.
I want this as a clip. Can we clip this for me? Just to send to my friends. Okay.
Yeah. What made you happy and fulfilled during your single years?
For me, it was comedy in my 30s.
Okay.
And plus I had a really bad breakup at 32. And I was like, I remember after breaking up with him being like, this was such a waste of my time. I put so much focus into this relationship that was essentially going nowhere and not even pursuing a dream of mine that could actually make me happy on my own. And I think that was like a harsh reality. Like it was a relationship where I thought this guy could be forever. And I literally, Maria, I cried on that couch for 3 days, got up, washed my face and was like, no more wasting time. My happiness has to start with me. And I don't think I'll be ready to meet someone until I really know that. Right. And I think living on my own and having great friends and pursuing something that was so hard, but yet brought so much joy, like a stand-up comedy career, was kind of like, I felt fulfilled.
It sounds like your perception of where you receive your own self-validation, it shifted from that bad relationship you were in to you taking ownership of like how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. I realized the whole time I was with him, I was feeling good dependent upon that relationship. And I was just like, what's happening? This isn't even a healthy relationship.
Right. And how, when you, so then, okay, you're 32, you're single, you're dating. When you got into your year of yes, so age 36, 37, how did you handle rejection or how did you handle like, yes, but it's a no?
The yes, but it's a no was always like, I need practice on these dates. And I found that if I'd go out with somebody and spoke about what I wanted, it kind of made me feel good about myself because it made me go, I'm validating what I really want. And I'm able to say it. And I'm learning how to say that because I'm a very vocal person, Bronx, Italian, loud, but I wasn't always so vocal about like who I am and what I want. And so it was really great for me to do that. And as far as the rejection, I think once you have all those years of growth and really knowing who you are and living alone and knowing what's important, that even when like that friend had said to me like, oh, this guy's not going to be serious with anyone, I remember thinking, if he's not into me, I'm not going to be into him. Right. It just, I didn't feel like that was a challenge or an attraction or that was going to make me go towards something. I only wanted something, not to say relationships are easy. Marriage is the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life. And that's from building a comedy career from the ground up. And I'll still say marriage is the hardest thing.
It's hard.
But I just knew that I wasn't going to focus or put my energy into something that wasn't attracting peace or, I want to be able to put my head in the pillow at night and not stress that somebody liking me. not the basic part of somebody liking me.
You know, it's not lost on me that today is our first episode of 2025. Tara, you had a year of yes. For those of you that want to do a year of yes, what are 3 things that we should keep in mind to have that year of yes?
I think everybody brings something to the table. Whether you're not attracted to someone, you can learn something about yourself just from sitting down with somebody else and having a conversation. So don't put so much stress on every person you're sitting down with. You can be pleasantly surprised. If I didn't have my year of yes, I would have said no immediately to my husband, who I like, who supports me and is a cheerleader and a friend and taught me so much about myself. Like you can't just have that, like, this is the only thing I want.
Right.
And that's like probably number 2. It's like people get so stuck on the image of what they think their partner's supposed to look like. You know, like they should have this and they should have. It's great to have, you know,
to have some attraction.
Yeah,
absolutely.
not even just attraction, but to have like a certain, like, I would really like this, or I have not values, but standards for yourself.
Right.
Absolutely. But don't be so like to the like book. Like it's
to the point where you've created a list, and even if this person exists,
unrealistic.
you don't know if they like you.
Yeah, and it's also unrealistic. You also could be saying no to somebody you should be saying yes to.
Right.
You know, so it's like that would be the second. And then third, have fun. I always forget this. I forget this when I'm going on stage. I have to remind myself how great this is. Like we stress so much, and if you're in your 30s or your 40s or even in your, you know, like I want to say in your 20s, I feel like it falls short on them, but these are the days of your life. This is the journey. You know, yes, you want the goal, but you got to be enjoying it while you're going through it. And I would say have fun even if it's on coffee. Like, it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
Just have fun going through it.
Absolutely. I think attitude is everything on dates. Oh, I love that, Tara. That was really good.
Thank you.
We have some Matchmaker Maria mail. If you'd like to send us some mail, email us. Send us your questions. Send us your vents. I love a good vent. Ask matchmakerpod@gmail.com. All right. Matchmaker Maria, I need your advice. I'm 35 and I just ended my engagement. My fiance, ex-fiance lady, 37, and I were together for 2.5 years, engaged for 1. 2 months before the wedding, everything fell apart. A bookie showed up at our house. It was a friendly visit from someone he said was his friend, but I soon discovered my fiance was drowning in debt from gambling on sports, a secret he had kept from me our entire relationship. I felt like I was having an outer-body experience discovering this, as if I was watching a movie. I started to evaluate my relationship and realized we weren't truly compatible. He was great at saying all the right things, but rarely followed through with actions except for the proposal. Honestly, I have no idea how he even paid for the ring. Looking back, I see now that I rushed into the engagement. My parents adored him, though they don't anymore, and I feel this relentless pressure from them and from myself to settle down. At 34, with the clock ticking, all right, relax, we get a digital clock, on starting a family, I convinced myself that this was the right path. But deep down, there was always a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. I ignored it because it felt easier to stick to the timeline everyone else seemed to expect from me. Now I'm left questioning everything. I thought I loved him, but was I really in love with him, or just the idea of him fitting into the life I thought I was supposed to have? How do I rebuild after this and learn to trust myself and others again? I wish I hadn't wasted the last few years on this guy.
Haven't we all said that last sentence?
Yeah.
I wish I had. Yeah.
I mean, let's go to the trust part. I think it's not even about trusting other people. It's learning how to trust yourself.
And the good news is she felt it in her gut. So at least you know what that feeling feels like.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's how you trust again. You go with what your gut says.
I think if someone is, I think timelines are bullshit.
I agree.
And I know I have a chapter on this in my book. And I even kind of said, it's like, look, everyone has their own path, you know, but if you're looking for like, if you're on the right path, you know, like the last thing I want is anyone to date someone for 2.5 years and not have had a conversation about money management. That's the timeline.
You were
right
getting
there.
2 months and you didn't know what this guy had.
That's crazy. I'm not calling her crazy. I'm saying that the situation is crazy. All right. So let's see what the question here is. How do I rebuild after this and learn to trust myself and others again? So how do I rebuild after this? my gut instinct when I hear this is it's time to create, new you sort of thing, right? So right now, all of the friends that you have, they know you as this person who was engaged to this person.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes that can kind of hold you back, your old friends, in the sense that, they're going to want to talk about this, right? Let's call him John for a second. They're going to want to talk about John, right? Whenever they see you. And I think you kind of, while you should still lean on your great friend support group, I think it's also an opportunity for you, all that time that you had with your fiance, fill it up with things to make yourself busy. And what I mean by is like, this is the perfect time to join something that meets weekly, be it a wine tasting class, a painting class, creative writing class. Oh, should be great in creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
Take out all your frustration to pen and paper. Learn something, learn archery, and as a result, you do create a new, even one or two acquaintances who don't know you to that, right? You have this new identity you can kind of allow to grow and build from that.
Mm-hmm. I think too, first of all, everybody needs that time to mourn.
Oh, yeah.
And it's important, but also take that deep breath of relief, like that sigh of relief, because in your gut, I remember when I broke up with the guy who I thought I was marrying, asked my parents for permission. And I remember I always felt that there was something not right about it. And the minute it revealed itself, similar to you, a bookie showing up at the house, I won't get into it because it's for a whole other episode. I remember going, I'm not crazy.
Right.
Like there was this like, okay, I do know what's right for me. And it's not because my parents loved him. My mother was devastated. And I was like, how dare anybody be devastated that this didn't work out and that I didn't be happy for me, that I didn't escape it. Like take time to go, thank God that is not my forever.
Did you feel relief in the validation?
100%. Like so much so that after I cried, I was like, well, at least all that stress is gone now. Like at least all that not putting my head on the pillow and feeling right is gone. And him telling me I was crazy, him gaslighting me, that's the term the kids use now. Making me believe that like I was wrong or making things up in my head when in fact I wasn't. I knew in my gut it wasn't right. I think that like when you say, how do I trust myself? You just right here, listen to yourself. You knew all along. You just have to believe that you're the only one who can really make the decisions for you. And it should not be a societal norm.
What advice would you give her to rebuild?
Listen, I think you gave great advice. I think you take your time to mourn. I think that, you lean on the friends or go to therapy. And then when you're done mourning it, make sure everybody else knows around you it's not a topic for discussion anymore. Ooh. And what happens for me is now on my timeline. I did a podcast episode because I had this Thanksgiving, and I actually said to my husband, this may be my last Thanksgiving with these certain relatives. I don't need people criticizing my life decisions based on what they think their timeline for me should be. I will say this to you about rebuilding yourself. You're going to get a lot of advice now that this happened, unless you're speaking to a professional like Maria and it's coming from somebody that knows you personally. I always say, is that person living the life I'd imagined for myself? If not, their advice doesn't really matter. Like it's their opinion, but doesn't hold weight. So it's like, start thinking about what you really want first. That's the only way to rebuild. Take your time to mourn and then go, what do I actually want? Do I want children? Do I want marriage? What do I want? And if you want it, like we said before, create the timeline. Go with your goal calendar that you have. Write it down piece by piece. Nothing happens overnight. Not a career, overnight. Not a marriage, not a relationship. And even then it's hard. Even when it's the right person, it's hard. So I think if the goal right now should be finding yourself, doing things outside of your comfort zone or things that you may be interested in that you never thought about doing, like Maria gave you suggestions, and then starting really small. Yeah. And going, these are the steps I'm going to take. Everything takes work. So if you want to rebuild. You can start at any time. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the new year, even though this is exactly what this episode is about.
Coincidentally, Tara.
It is a new year.
This has been so wonderful. And I am so happy that you're here. You're going to be joining us.
I am.
For 3 more episodes.
So excited.
It's going to be great.
You guys are gonna have to shut
Tara,
me up.
where can people find you?
All my social media is Tara Jokes. Facebook's Tara Cannistraci, but my website is Tara Jokes, Instagram Tara Jokes, TikTok Tara Jokes, and
I'm going to include those links in the
and
show
also my
notes.
YouTube because I'm going to get in trouble. And I also have a podcast that is not as long as a quick 10-minute cup of Joe every morning. It's called Coffee Talk. You can listen to me talk about things like this for 10 minutes every Monday morning.
Oh my God, I love that. Well, Tara, again, thank you for coming on. And for those of you with us, don't forget to download 2025 Goal Planner while you're in the show links. Of course, follow our lovely, lovely co-host, Tara at Tara Jokes. You can also follow me in the podcast, Matchmaker Maria, and Ask a Matchmaker. While you're there, you can pre-order my book because guess what? My book comes out this year. It comes out in May.
Congratulations.
Thank
What an
you.
accomplishment.
I can't believe it's finally 2025. This is insane. And because I've been thinking about it for 2 years.
It's a good gift for all your friends.
It's a
your
great
friend.
Memorial Day gift.
Yeah. Or birthday or 4th of July.
I don't care if they're Sagittarius. You buy them their birthday gift in May. So yeah, I can't believe it because I remember when I got my book deal in 2023, they were like, it's coming out in 2025. And I'm like, oh, that's so far away from now. No, it's here. It's here. So please pre-order my book, and you can also come to Greece with me. I also have included the links to my upcoming retreats in Pados and in Crete. I will be at the one in Pados. Other people will be out there in Crete. Tara, you gotta join us, girl.
I think that's what I'm meant to do.
Yes.
I think this is why I'm here. I'm coming to Pados. I'm coming to Pados,
baby. We also visit Naxos and Adiparos.
Those are the ones I want to go to.
It's the best. It's the best. All right. As you know, this is how I always end each episode. Be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.